Welcome to 360 Degree Show hosted by Transcontinental Times. Today we have with us the queen of dance solo, Sadie Marquardt. Her technique and her unique style have captivated the audience from all over the world. Thank you so much, Sadie, for being with us this afternoon. A morning for you.
Thank you so much for having me. Congratulations on the show and super excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, me too. After such a long time, it's very nice to see you again.
Yeah. When
Yeah,
was the last, like a year and a half ago in Egypt, I think was the last time we saw each other.
yes, yes, my God, time has completely changed right now because of the situation, but hopefully everything will return to the normality very soon. So I would like to ask you, how did a girl who lived in Colorado got in love with Oriental dance?
Yeah, I was really lucky that where I live here, there was a handful of teachers that were teaching belly dancing. And the main teacher that I started studying with, she actually had an advertisement on the radio. And I heard the advertisement and I just like was electrified. Like I heard this belly dancing. I don't even know what the ad was because I just heard the word belly dancing and I was about 18 years old, going on 19. And I literally pulled my car over and I'm like, I have to write, I had to like just take a minute to be like, what did I just hear? What is that? And then I was so filled with curiosity and just like I had to know more. So I went home immediately. This was in 96, so I had to open up the phone book. We didn't have all this internet stuff, and I had to open the phone book and I looked under the section for dance and I found the phone number and everything, and I contacted her and I got into the classes. And to be honest, I was just so enamored and so in love with everything about it. Her little setup. She had a studio in her basement in her home and she had it all decorated and she had posters of all the like classic Egyptian golden era dancers. She had costumes everywhere and finger symbols and just so many things that as a young like 18, 19-year-old girl woman, I was just like, wow, this is really amazing. And then her class, of course, was fabulous. She was a really amazing teacher. So I was hooked.
Yeah, and at the beginning, this is really, really exciting, and everything is new, no? So I can imagine how that was. How who were the teachers that marked your career apart from this? Of course, that who was the first one. Who you consider that was the main characters that have made your career prosperous?
Well, it would be that same teacher. Her name is Joy Nan. She went by the dance name Joy Nan. And she had a public television show here in the United States, and she was a vendor, so she'd go around to all the different festivals. She also had a small business, booking dancers for big events, sometimes corporate
Mhm.
events, sometimes weddings, sometimes, all kinds of different special events. And maybe 5 or 6 years into being a student with her, she really encouraged me to start doing these events. And I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I wanted to do it. I felt very shy. And she just kept pushing me. She's like, no, I think you'll be really good at this. So Joy Nan was the number one most influential teacher in my dance journey and my career. And then there was another dancer locally here, Eva Chernick, and she also I started taking classes with her at one point, and she also gave me a lot of really amazing opportunities early on that kind of blossomed into bigger things. So I'm really grateful to both Joy Nan and Eva Chernick for my dance journey.
Very nice. It's always very nice to hear from big big artists like you that reminds the first teachers that they had in the origin, no? Because uh, we are not appearing from the nothing, no? There is always
Exactly.
someone that make us the impulse, no, for growing.
It's
Great.
very important. I don't think I personally know any very well-known dancers who didn't have amazing inspiring teachers that really believed in them and helped them at some point.
Yeah. You have traveled all around the world, and I can imagine sometimes this is very exciting, but in another moments it has to be a little bit hard, especially traveling as a woman, a lone woman. How has been to travel some countries? I don't know, for example, I'm thinking in Oriental countries or Latin American countries. How has been this experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate and blessed overall that, you know, our community is just pretty incredible. You know, we have a lot of really wonderful people in the dance community. Um, but yeah, of course, as a woman, I always have to take some extra measures to make sure I'm going to be safe and check check everything, you know, before I go somewhere. I want to really know where am I going to be. Um, who, you know, and then if I'm going somewhere where I feel like maybe there should be some extra security measures that I take, then, you know, I would talk to the sponsor about those concerns. And I've been very lucky, you know, to have had mostly hosts and sponsors who take pretty good care of me. And, you know, they pick us up at the airport and they take us to our hotel and they escort us around. I have had a couple situations where I have been left hanging, and that was very scary in places that I had never been before and I didn't speak the language. And kind of before smartphones, I actually had a sponsor never show up to pick me up. And there was no smartphone to, you know, do the things you'd need to do. So I learned a lot in that experience and I cried a lot. And,
Oh,
but, you know, I'm also an adventurous person and I like to travel. So for me, it's never been too scary, but I do notice how I always have eyes on the back of my head or the side of my head. Pretty, I guess, street savvy, as they would say. You know, you just can't go around places not being aware of your surroundings, checking for cultural cues. I think that's really important. Like I do not travel like most Americans. I do not travel with any expectation that I should just be able to enter somebody's country and culture acting however I want. I always try to be super respectful of the customs and the things happening in other countries. And I try to adapt myself to not stand out too much and to not be disrespectful in any way.
yeah, because sometimes that can happen, no? Because different cultures, different ways of behaving, and sometimes you can be a little bit overwhelmed by the situation. But that's nice. And another question: you are also mom of a young kid, and I know you were traveling with him when he was very small, and I think that must be pretty difficult to manage your career at the beginning, especially. Nowadays, I suppose this is getting slowly more stable. But how are you managing to be a mom of this small kid?
Yeah, it's a wild ride for sure. And you just kind of somehow, I don't know if you have this phrase, but in Latin America, I think in my sister-in-law, she told me when I was pregnant with my son, I was very concerned. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. How can I juggle all of this? And she said to me, well, in Spanish, we have a saying that a baby is born with its own bread.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, and she's like, don't worry about it. It's all going to come together. This baby's coming into the world with its blessings and you're its mother and you're going to figure it out. And that's so true. Like you just figure it out. You get really good at prioritizing your time. You get really good at multitasking. You get really good at just reorganizing your schedule in a way that you can make time for it. And yeah, I mean, we sleep a lot less, I think, for sure. But, you know, I have to say it's just actually just been a blessing and a joy. It has been some difficult adjustments for sure. And now he's going to be 10. So like you said, it's just, I don't know life any other way now. So for me, it's not even something I really think about. But the first initial years were a little bit like overwhelming and wow. And yes, I did travel with him. In fact, he lived with me in Europe every single summer for about 3 months, we would live in Europe. So the way that I was able to tour and travel was I would set up a big chunk of time overseas instead of going back and forth and back and forth. So pretty much every May, around the end of May, my son and my son's dad and I, we would all travel over to Europe, and we'd rent a house, and we would stay there for the summer. And then I would kind of travel out on weekends, or we would travel together by car, or we'd go together sometimes. It just kind of depends. So I got really good again at sort of prioritizing, how can I still do this? Because I can't go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's not sustainable or healthy for any of us. So I came up with this kind of tour schedule where I would just do all of my overseas work between the months of like June and August while I was over there.
That's nice. Yes, because he will be missing you so much if you are very much time abroad, no?
Yeah. No, I was not able to separate from him that long. I mean, I would go do a few little things, weekends away and stuff like that. But I tried to always bring him with me as much as possible, especially in those first 2 years, because tickets for him are free.
That's good.
Babies, I don't know if it's still the same, but babies up to 2 years old would typically travel free on airlines. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Yes. And now he will be in school, so it's more difficult to travel with him, no? That is when he started the school. What do you consider was the beginning? What made the difference in your career for starting your international career? You can talk about something?
Yeah, I think for me, the international career, so it's interesting because I actually never intended to be really doing this like this. I think I had some fantasies at one point, like, oh, that would be so amazing, because I used to go to festivals, take workshops with the big name teachers like Layla Haddad. I was really into Layla Haddad for a while from France, and she'd come to California and I'd study with her. And I always thought, wow, that must be so amazing. But I really never thought that would be me one day. And so for me, it wasn't something I was actively trying to make happen. My career really started slowly with doing local things here in my state, then in my own country. I made some DVDs here in the United States in like around 2004, 2003 to probably around 2004 to 2006, I made a bunch of DVDs. And the DVDs went on the market internationally. And that was how I got my first event in the UK. Actually, the woman emailed me and said, I love your drum solo video DVD. It's my favorite DVD. I have a school here in, I think it was Reading or something in the UK. And she said, I'd love to bring you. And I was just like, wow, okay, sure. Yeah. If you like my stuff, I'm willing to come. So I went, and it was really funny because that was the first international invitation I had. And as soon as she emailed me, within the next week or two, I got several other emails from like the Czech Republic and different places asking me to come. So I actually made a tour. So my first travel overseas for work was a small mini tour, and it was because of my DVDs. And then shortly after that, YouTube happened. I think YouTube started in 2005 or 6. And I had a video that I think went up and started to go somewhat viral in like 2007.
That's one of the most viewed video of Oriental dance. I think it has more than 30 million of reproductions or something like. Right now I don't know how many, but a lot.
Yeah. So I didn't post that video. I didn't even know what YouTube was, and somebody else had posted it, and I started getting a lot more interest and people contacting me around that time. So I'm guessing that the YouTube at that time had something to do with it. And it just kind of slowly kept snowballing and going and going. And I kept going with it. I tried to say yes to as many opportunities as I could. It was
Yeah.
kind of crazy. That was the time before my son, and I'd literally be doing something crazy. Like I'd go from the US to Europe, back to the US to Asia, back to the US to South America, back to the US, back to Europe. Like, and it was nuts. And I knew I couldn't sustain that when my son was born. So that's when I started doing the little mini tours, because it's kind of crazy. The traveling, it takes a big toll on your body and your health. And I don't think most people
Mm.
appreciate that when they're young, or most people don't recognize it's very taxing on the body.
Yeah, yeah, can imagine. And nowadays we have opposite situation, no? Because the pandemic has completely stopped the trips, completely stopped the festivals. Before, being organizers of a festival was a big risk for organizers, but nowadays it's impossible. And things are changing, no? Because as organizers cannot do festivals in presence, they are starting online festivals that are not the same, but it's maintaining at least the inspiration for people. Do you think this is going to change some way Oriental dance culture, the teachers, the students? Do you think there is going to be a result after this? Some changes?
I'm sure there will be some changes. I'm sure, I mean, this is going to impact the dance on definitely on many levels. I don't know that we know what those impacts or changes will be just yet. I think there will be positive ones, and I think there will be negative ones. I think it's always that way, right? I think everything has pros and cons. So I think in one way, it's been really exciting to see the resiliency of our community and how much our community has really wanted to maintain the connections and the
Mm.
support for artists, the support for students. I know so many teachers in the beginning of the pandemic were making free online classes because of the economic crisis to really support the students. And then the students were really just incredible at paying for classes to support the artists and the teachers. So I thought that that was just a really beautiful thing and inspiring thing to see. Um, so that was one of the positives. And then, of course, I mean, gosh, dancing and movement, is like something meant to do in person with other people. And then this dance, especially that live music and cultural component. So I worry a little bit about um, so many foreign dancers not being able to connect directly with the culture and how that might impact it.
Mm.
Um, People losing interest and momentum because we can't come out of our homes and dance together. So I wonder if the industry and the economic portion will be very negatively impacted, if people will just lose a lot of interest in it, or if they're going to want to come back. That I don't know,
Mm.
but I do know that this dance has survived for a very long time through many, many things. So I have no doubts it's going to come back
Yeah, I
strong.
think if this resist after the Christian and the Muslim very beginning, no, until 19th
Yeah.
century, hopefully this will resist also overpass this crisis. That's for sure. Uh, let's talk about a little bit about your inspiration, because you have a very very personal style. From where this inspiration is coming from?
I would say my number one inspiration was the music. So I just really loved drum solos, and I kind of attribute it to I was really young at the time. Uh, and so for me, it was like, ooh, the drums, the high energy. And it was something I could really relate to as a foreign dancer, not speaking Arabic, not understanding Arabic music so well. It was so different. But the drum solo, I always felt like, yes, this is my thing. And I would literally just put the music on and I would just move my body in a way that I felt reflected the sounds that I heard. So that was really how my style developed. Um, Also, I can't deny that there was just here in the United States a very big popularity and isolations around that time, like making these really sharp, isolated movements with the body. And I also thought that that was very interesting to me. And I really enjoyed the process of learning those isolations on my body. So that was kind of how my style really developed, was my interest in those things. And of course, it's evolved over time. Very much it's evolved over time, but that was how it started.
Yeah. And nowadays, I see there's a very big interest in professionals, in teachers, and also in students about returning to the roots. And nowadays, golden era dancers are being recovered by the teachers. Why do you think this is happening?
I think it's amazing, and I think we need it to happen more and more and more. But to be honest, I think there always comes a point in a dancer's journey as they continue. So I think sometimes after the first year or the second year, and it's first self-discovery, right? You're dancing and you're a new student, and it's all about your own self-discovery at first. Like, wow, what my body can do, and wow, what is this? And then at some point, you kind of successfully pass that level of self-discovery, and you start asking more questions about the dance, like, where does this dance come from? And why did women do this dance? And, the music. And, you start asking questions, I think, naturally as you continue with the dance. So I think most students, just after a couple years, naturally, if they want to continue with Oriental Rock Sharky, they're going to continue to ask more questions, which is going to take them in that direction already. And then I think it's just like, if you think of fashion, like clothing, every 50 years, that fashion from 50 years ago comes back. Like, my grandma always tells me, she's like, oh, look at this fashion. That was such a thing when I was in my 20s, And so I think right now we've kind of explored almost to the boundaries of where we could possibly explore with fusion and the different things we can do with this art form, that it seems pretty natural to me that we make a return to some older styles. So I think the combination of just being genuinely wanting to know more about the culture of the dance, and also just, let's change up the styles again. And if you can't think of something new, you go back to the old.
Yeah, and especially because these old dances that seems to be so easy, they are not at all. I mean, technically, they were super difficult, and
right.
Probably very few people, very few, I don't know, European Americans, or I don't know, not properly coming from Egypt, especially from Egypt, where the technique is so small, so precise, so well done, can develop and reproduce, no? Because it's really, really pretty difficult to dance the classical dance in the way they were doing.
Very
the isolation
difficult.
Was amazing.
Yeah. I will be honest in saying that it's the hardest thing, as I even continue to really understand the nuances of rock sharky movements and vocabulary. It's the hardest because it's so layered and so complex. Whereas another isolation might be just like up and down. The way they do in rock sharky is like up and down with like all these other spiraling parts, and everything is just so gracefully dancing, and it's so connected to the music. So that's the other piece of it that foreigners, I think, really are missing out on if they haven't traveled to Egypt or to an Arabic country where they can experience that connection with the live music. And I mean, for me, the music has always been the number one teacher. I mean, I remember going to Egypt and Turkey and different countries where you can hear live music, and it just does something really magical to your brain and to your body. And it's not like any other experience. I really don't think you can have that experience unless you set foot in those places and you have it there.
Yeah, that's true. A special connection with live music, and the musicians from there is very important for a dancer, because you cannot capture the small things that appear in the music from a tape, from a disc, from a CD, or a reproduction in a cage. So it's very difficult to be able to capture all the small things that are appearing, the different instruments rolling up and down. And I think that's very important. It's interesting anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, I'm curious because you were a pioneer, no? Because you created one of the first. There were another before, but one of the first online academies, and it was before the pandemic. So you were kind of pioneer with this. How is going this experience for you? It is Racks Online.
Mm-hmm. It's going well. And all I can say is I'm just so grateful that I was already building this before the pandemic, because even as the pandemic hit, it was even challenging for me to find out how to really reach people and how to give people what they really needed and wanted in this time. So, I had been doing online classes since my son was born, because I already changed the way I was teaching. So my son was born in 2011. I started doing online classes in about 2012. Um, and I was doing them every week right here in this room. And yeah, I just got a lot of experience in understanding how to best connect with students in the online platform, because it's different. It's very different. And how do you keep people engaged and excited and give them that feel of connection and intimacy, even from the online space. So that was invaluable years for me learning, even though I didn't know what I was learning at the time. And then about 4 years ago is when I really started wanting to build my own platform, because I was using other services like Powwow and stuff like that. And I always knew I wanted to build my own, because the Powwow was never giving me exactly what I wanted to present. And I started trying to build my own platform 4 years ago. And there was a lot of disasters, a lot of crying, a lot of lost money, a lot of people screwing me over. I paid a lot of money to some different web developers who promised they could build me the site, and they didn't. And so I spent thousands and
But
thousands
it
of
was very
dollars.
new. Even the plugins that were applied for that work before are completely different than what is using right now. Probably
Right.
the technology was not prepared for what you wanted to do.
Exactly. Well, and they even told me that at the end. I hired 2 developers for 2 years, and I spent all my savings. And at the end of the 2 years, they just said, "I'm so sorry, we can't build you what you want." But I had already
Wow.
spent all the money.
How come?
But then, to be honest, I found an angel friend. Lindsay was her name, and she's doing amazing things out in the world. She's a digital nomad. She's an absolute genius. I've never met anybody whose brain operates on this level with technology. And she helped us build the platform, and she made it happen. She made my dreams come true. She made the vision come to life. And so, I just stuck with it, and it happened. So, and now it's amazing. I'm really happy with it. I'm so happy to have my own thing that I can do what I want to do with it. And I don't have to have the limitations of other tech things, because as we know, a lot of the other products out there are limited in many ways. And so I'm very happy that my platform and my product continues to grow with my vision. So it's been amazing.
Very nice. Tell us about new projects that you're having in mind now.
Well, I do have a new project that is not dance related at all. I'll tell you a dance related project and a non-dance related project. So the non-dance related project is, I am going to my mom's farm this summer in May with my son. We're going to spend the whole summer there, and I'm going to be helping her hemp farm. So she just retired from her career, and she wants to use her land. She has a beautiful farm in Wisconsin, and here in the United States, hemp is a big thing right now. And just so people who don't know the difference, there's a difference between hemp and marijuana. It's the same plant, but you can cultivate the hemp plant for many uses that have nothing to do with the smokable THC marijuana. So we're working with the hemp plant, and it has been an incredible learning journey. I've always wanted to be a farmer, so I'm really excited about that.
Great.
And to be honest, we're planning on building this long term. So this will kind of be my long term plan B goal. Like maybe if I retire from dance, I'll go into farming. My dance project is I just formed a new dance collective. So I was very fortunate to gather about 15 really amazing dancers here locally in Colorado that have been my students, as well as other professional dancers. We formed our collective in December of 2019, and we
And
started
then pandemic.
rehearsing for this show we wanted to do. We wanted to do a show this summer. So our first big stage theatrical show was going to be this summer, and then COVID
Great.
happened. So we're not doing the show anymore because of COVID, but we're really excited to get back together in person and make the theatrical show. I've always wanted to do a big stage production as a dream of mine, and so I'm going to make that happen.
That sounds amazing. We are expecting for that. That will be very nice to see how it works. And tell us, which advice you will give to a woman who wants to dedicate her life to Oriental dance?
I would just say get started. I think anytime you want to do something and it feels really big, and that's what's exciting about it, right? Like, wow, I have a dream to be an amazing dancer. Don't think about that part out there so much about like being the professional dancer. Just get started with the little steps every day, practicing. And then I'm going to take it back to what we talked about in the very beginning. Take the time. I don't care if it takes you 6 months or a year or 2 years. Find the teacher that is like your soulmate. Your teacher should feel like a soulmate to you. If you're not vibing with your teacher, if you don't have a good connection with your teacher, I just feel like you're at a major disadvantage. I think you really need to find somebody. And I know you can't always find that locally, and it doesn't have to be locally. If you connect with a teacher, even online, that you can tell cares about your progress, sees you as a unique individual, wants to guide you on the really important things about Rock Sharky, like the cultural components, stuff like that. I think that's what you really want to look for. And you want somebody who believes in you and wants you to achieve your goals. You don't ever want a teacher who's like holding you down or holding you back, or, because we have some of those teachers out there too. So it's very important for the success of your future as a dancer to have some really strong mentors on your journey. And sometimes those mentors are temporary. It's not like somebody you have to be with for 10 years. It could be somebody you meet in a workshop setting, right? But you really have to, I call it like earning your stripes. It's like a rite of passage. I almost feel like if you don't have somebody who helps you to earn your stripes or give you that rite of passage in some ways, that it's really difficult to move forward. You need some help and you need some support.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, Sadie. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And I hope you continue with your successful career. We are very excited to see your new projects. Take care and see you soon, I hope. In real life, not through the web.
I hope so too. And thank you to everybody watching, and congratulations again. Thank you, Sahra, for making this lovely opportunity for all of us stuck at home, that we can still connect and learn and inspire.
Bye. That's bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.